user spectrum, which is really about from being a very passive user of the internet to becoming a creator of your own content, and the nuances all in between. And then technology as an enabler, which you know, with digital citizenship, it initially, when everybody reacted to this technology in education, people were kind of in the conservative side where they were locking down things. You're not allowed to use this, you're not allowed to do that, etc., etc. And it kind of stifled the possibility of technology. And now we're getting to a stage more mature where we say, okay, maybe we need to educate young people in the right way so that they can, you know, use this technology the right way. Very much like, you know, we just don't get people to drive cars. We teach them how to drive cars and the road rules and how not to get into road rage and all that sort of stuff. So hopefully once they get into the cars, they drive carefully and not cause too many accidents. Likewise with the internet. So digital citizenship was very much developed, and it's starting to become really, really big around the planet now, where we're getting conferences that are solely dedicated to digital citizenship. Just to get a sense of, well, there's only one teacher there, so but I'll put this one up anyway, this poll, and just see, let's say, has anyone got anything to do with digital citizenship? So that there's, I guess the people that are not involved in teaching are saying no. But okay, so there is a fair bit of digital citizenship. One person who really has an organized plan. The remainder is kind of still ad hoc. Very much what I've seen in schools. So we are still in this period of transition where we are developing the possibilities of how we're going to teach our young people to use technology in a way that is really you know, leverages their learning. But we also have to teach the parents, and we also have to teach the teachers, because all these three groups are still lacking a lot of knowledge that they require to become effective. And so digital citizenship is a process where we do this in a systematic way, and the Moodle platform is ideal for that. And school communities are a perfect place to use Moodle in this context. So we got a parents group, we got teachers, we got students, and they all have their own take on technology, or a lack of understanding of technology, and we all need to somehow get to on the same page. And I've chosen that page to be the digital citizen policy of schools, so they're generally known as the AUPs. And basically, when kids get to secondary school, the middle school, the parents and the students are asked to sign this document before they actually start their school year. And both groups don't really understand what they're signing. They sign it anyway because they have to, but the document is kind of very dead. And so I thought, okay, let's create this program that evolves around the AUP, making it alive, getting everybody involved, and getting everybody to talk about it. And in particularly getting students to talk about it, because students are the people we are trying to teach new things, but they already have so much knowledge about it. So we want to get feedback from all these different groups. And in that feedback, interesting things happen. So a program like that really needs to be community focused, because it takes a village to raise a digital citizen. It needs to be balanced. It can't just be all the negative and the fear-based stuff that we read in the media. It's got to really, you know, show that technology is a wonderful thing and it's got incredible possibilities. And it needs to be engaging. I mean, I'm from the film industry, and if you create a documentary that is not engaging, you just don't get the ratings. We would get our doco out, and we get the following morning the ratings, and that was the most important thing, because it would tell you how engaging you had been. So the course also the program needs to be flexible. And I think learning management systems such as Moodle is phenomenal, others as well, because they provide 24/7 access, which gives flexibility for the learner to get on, look at things again, etc., etc. It should be available on all devices, and the topics should have a seamless fit with the existing curriculum that exists in schools. Otherwise, you're trying to impose something that already is, pretty dense, and the school politics starts to fire up. So the next thing, the schools should be in charge, ideally, and I've designed this program to be the case, so that they can say, well, we'll fit it in this. This is how we're going to run it over such a period, rather than me setting the time frame. Let them do it themselves. The program should be run by school staff, so it should be user-friendly, and it should have inbuilt educational features, so that staff that don't know what Moodle is, or don't know how to run courses like this, can be trained. And it should be data secure. I think it's a really big issue, particularly in the US, where people are starting to worry about what's happening with all this data that's being generated at schools, et cetera, et cetera. So it'd be nice to have that. And this program is basically sitting on a school server and behind their firewalls. So that solves that problem. And then the fourth aspect of this program is it continuously need to be updated, because digital citizenship is an incredibly living, breathing topic that is continuously changing, not only with the new technology, but also the way we are relating to the technology. And it's a big discussion that's going on. And so that discussion needs to be incorporated in this program on a regular basis to keep it fresh. So I developed, we're using Moodle and a nice theme, a platform that in itself is quite unique, in that there are 3 courses there: a course for students, a course for parents, and a course for teachers. And I've got this e-moderated course, which I'll talk with you about in a minute. But really, the 3 courses are designed specifically for each target group, for each audience. So students, according to their interests, their abilities, and their learning requirements, and likewise for the parents, for their needs, etc., and interests, and the teachers. But the interesting thing about it is that the topics are presented at the same time, but to these specific audiences. So if they're learning about, say, communication, students will learn it from their interest, and it's presented so that it's interesting to them. And likewise, the other groups are getting their own take on this. With the parents, it would be a lot more about, how do we manage security settings? What are the limitations? What are the positives, etc., on the different communication things that they learn? But it allows them then, when they connect with each other, to discuss things from an informed basis, and then develop their own knowledge about it. Now, the courses, of course, are filled with videos and with all sorts of documents that they can download, or interactive documents. There are activities there. There is gamified sections there to really get the engagement going for the kids. And of course, this thing is really big on communication. So there's lots of forum activities, and of course, there's assessment part of that as well, particularly for the students. So the content is based on ISTE, which is basically the international standardization of digital learning, or technology learning. And so using that, it becomes a program that can be run here in Australia, or it can be run elsewhere. It doesn't really matter, because it's following those standards. But here we're looking at a learning module, and those who are familiar with learning management systems, they do lend themselves to modular learning. And here, this is the learning module 6 out of 7. So we're way down in the course. This one is for students, but the key is that the structure of the learning module is very regular. So right from learning module 1, there is a title, there's a little bit of description of what's going to be happening. Then there's a more detailed document on exactly for the students what they'll be doing that week, with instructions on activities and all the likes. Then there will be videos, which is like a real primer to get their interest running. And that's associated with in-class time where the kids are then discussing what they've just seen on videos with their teacher. And then they take the more online approach where they start working on a workbook on an iPad where they go through various processes. And once they've learned all that stuff, they do a game which is about what they've just learned, but in a gamified format. And so then, of course, there's what they call mission materials. That's just basically associated documents. And in this case, there is also an interactive that they can click out that gives all the information about copyright and plagiarism and other issues associated with that. Then there is a forum where they upload the results from their activity they had. And there is a forum where they share this with their teachers. And once they've gone through all that, that module is finished and they'll end up with a badge. But the parents have a similar module. This is again learning module 6 happening at the same time, but this is now the parents module. And they also get this, what this week is all about from their perspective. And they get a video and various interactive materials. And here they have a forum where they just talk amongst themselves. So the parents are just discussing copyright issues and what is important to them about that amongst themselves. And then they have a bunch of supportive documents and information that would enhance that conversation. And then the teachers have this as well. They look at a similar layout. Again, there is a bit of, this is slanted towards what teachers need to know about copyright in this instance, but they also go through a very similar structure, and then you'll see that they have a forum with the students and they have a forum amongst themselves. And so you can imagine that when these 3 modules are running at the same time, and then they start either talking amongst each other or between each other, you're getting very rich conversations, and that's exactly what we're after. So you get these groups that are talking with each other. There's a safety to that. People know each other. They share experiences readily. But they are in that process, they are creating their own knowledge about what they've just seen. And I think that's where really the magic happens in a course like this, because they own that knowledge. It's specific to that particular group. And when you start then mixing the groups, so you're getting the parents and the teachers and the students talking with each other, that knowledge creation becomes even more interesting, and it becomes more community specific. So, a particular school community will, their conversations really start to drift towards a particular issue that's particularly important to them, and they will then discuss that using the AUP or their school policy as their basis. And maybe it requires adjustments. And that's the exciting part of running this process. Now, as everybody knows, it's great to get awarded. And so there's badges for the kids, there's badges for the parents, and there's badges for the teachers as they complete their learning modules. And then when they complete the course altogether, they're getting a nice license to prove that they have basically achieved that. Now, as I said before, this program is designed to be run by the teachers with very little outside help. Um, Now, the teachers themselves are usually the ones that are implementing this program, and not all of them are familiar with Moodle. So I've created a course within this program that will teach them about Moodle basics. It will teach them about the course structure itself. How is this thing organized? And also about the e-learning process, where there is a definite beginning where it's still very simple and a lot of guidance need to be given, and then as the process matures over the weeks, people getting more confident, and they start doing things by themselves, and the e-moderator is holding back a little bit and just does things like weaving to really amplify the learning that is occurring in the forums. So those are skills that teachers may or may not have. I find that teachers have enormous amount of skills already acquired from the classroom, but then it just needs to be nudged a little bit so that it becomes relevant on the e-learning platform. Things like asynchronous communication, has very different dynamics than the face-to-face communication, like what we're experiencing now. So there needs to be an understanding about it, and this course will give them that. And then the last thing that's very important is what I've found is that teachers will get very wound up about all this and spend far too much time inefficiently doing all this. So I've put a component in it to teach teachers how to really manage their own time so that they can spend 10 minutes or 15 minutes just doing the e-moderation and then switch off. Do it on a regular basis so that everybody knows that you're going to be there at 9 or 10 o'clock and 5 o'clock in the afternoon for a little bit of time, and that's it. So those are skills that they'll get through that course and then become confident enough to be able to run the program. Now, the school benefits, apart from the program just being thrown in their lap, and a lot of them are quite happy about that, because as we all know, schools are very time poor, and if something is already pre-digested and it can just be slid into their program, they're very happy to accept that. But the result ends up, the greater aim is that there will be a collective, community-based, in-depth understanding of the school policy, and an understanding that the school policy is a living document and not a dead document that is just being presented at the beginning of the year and never seen again, except in situations when the breaches are being made. Teachers themselves are becoming empowered by understanding the issues from their point of view about digital citizenship. In Australia, is very big deal about where you have duty of care, issues associated with that in relation to the internet, but also how do you present yourself as a teacher through social media and all that. And of course, being a role model, and research really showed that kids are constantly watching adults. How are they behaving with all this technology, and then model their behavior on that, which is basically what we've been doing for hundreds of thousands of years. Now, teachers and schools are on their way to become digital citizenship certified. Now, that may be interesting for teachers, because they can actually show, if they move on to other schools, that they've acquired these skills. And for the schools themselves, it can be a real PR thing where they can put on their website saying, "Hey, listen, we have this program, we have covered that." If there's an incident occurring at the school about maybe a cyberbullying incident, and the media gets involved, etc., well, at least the school can say, "Look, we have a proper program that addresses things. It's unfortunate things happen, but we've covered our bases." Teachers here in Australia need to spend 20 hours doing professional development. This program will cover that. I don't know what it's like in other places of the world. But, parents are really empowered. I find parents are really hard to pull in, but once they feel the ease of working in this program, and it is because they can do it on their mobile phone, they can do it on whatever device, at whatever time. So once we get them in through the door and pass them the fright of using the technology, they become really enthusiastic. And the big thing is that they really start to understand how the schools are using technology at school with the students and how the parents can support it at home. It's really, really important. The students have always been left out, including the development of most acceptable use policies, and I think that's an absolute mistake, because you can impose rules on someone, but students are clever enough, particularly with technology, to circumvent it if they want to. You know, I've been in class where it was not allowed to go on the internet, watch any YouTubes, etc. So simply what they did was they just created their own personal hotspot on their phone, and then that's how they bypass the system. So unless you get the students involved and let them know what it's all about and why we are having these rules, they're not going to be on board fully. Finally, the program, which is wonderful thing about Moodle, is it generates all these reports, so you can extract and make the report anonymous, but it becomes a valuable document at the end of the program to give the school management a picture of what's happening, what has come up in the discussions, and that can be very valuable in their planning for future years. So that is more or less it. I'm happy to answer questions. Anyone who wants to know a little bit more about the program or contact me. I think the idea of creating a program with courses running in parallel is really probably what I'm giving in this talk, and I guess you can apply that in your own courses, particularly to foster discussion amongst disparate groups. So, any questions? I'd be happy to answer them. Let's see.
Just before people jump in with some questions, don't forget, if you can either put your microphones on to ask the questions, or you can put them in the chat. Yeah. I just really want to thank you, Casper.
That's a pleasure.
That was just fascinating, and how you can use it in so many different aspects and things and stuff that it can be used for. Do you know what I mean? Sort of like, it's great when you can see presentations and think, oh, I could do it here, I can use that part and that part. So thank you so much for that.
That's a pleasure.
Yeah, it was fabulous. So thank you very much. As I said, anyone, you can pop questions in. Don't forget you can use the forums as well. And try and, if you have a question later for Casper, and just send a message through our forums. But again, thank you. And thank you also for having the privilege of seeing your wife's gorgeous painting behind you. It's made me very cheerful today.
Our humble origins. That's a pleasure, Wendy.
Okay, we'll see you in our next rooms, everyone. Thank you.
Okay.